I'm Veronique.
And I'm Sylvia.
Welcome to the High Vibes and the Mind podcast,
where multicultural moms connect.
Hi everyone, this is Veronique and Sylvia. We're back for a podcast on High Vibes and a Mic. And today we have a guest. Her name is Kristen Swinehart. Has navigated the path from a career in law to becoming a medium and spiritual channeler. So Kristen started her career as a lawyer with an exceptional ability to blend logic with intuitive wisdom. Kristen offers unique insights and guidance that resonate with a wide audience. And today we had a very, very interesting conversation about spirit. Talk about Archangel, a topic that we really like. So Kristen's journey into the realm of mediumship was quite a long one, but led to dedicated study and training in psychic development, energy healing, and channeling. And Kristen discovered an innate ability to connect with higher consciousness, spirit guides, and departed loved ones. She brings a distinctive voice to discussions on law, life, and spirituality. She shares her journey from legal practice to spiritual awakening, offering listeners a rare perspective that integrates rational thought with spiritual insight. And Kristen's mission is to inspire and empower individuals to navigate their personal and professional lives with clarity, purpose, and spiritual awareness. She enjoys sharing how the convergence of logic and intuition can lead to profound personal growth and a deeper understanding of the world around us. So let's talk to Kristen. So Kristen, you used to be a lawyer.
Yes.
And you discovered that you had a gift. So can you tell us about, how you became a medium? From a lawyer to a medium?
Definitely, it was not a linear, as I would imagine most would think. You don't one day wake up and be, oh, today I'm practicing law and tomorrow I'm going to talk to dead people. Like, it doesn't really work that way. At least it didn't for me. Maybe somebody who's going to have it that way, but not for me. Well, I started practicing law. I mean, I went kind of traditional route, college, law school, started practicing as soon as I got out of law school. And I wanted to work in sports and entertainment and didn't really work out that way. Ironically, now as I look back, I ended up doing wills and probate work. So like the irony, like dealing with people's estates after they die. Now, funny. So I practiced for a little bit and just did not like it at all. And I couldn't understand, what I understand life. We live, then we do these jobs we hate, and then we die. Like there's got to be something more to this. I just don't know. So about 25, 26 years old, I start questioning, what the heck are we doing here? And what else is there? And so I had an opportunity to move to New York City and manage comedians. I was like, yes, let me do that so I can get out of practicing law and maybe do this other route. And so, it took me a while to go. I stopped practicing law pretty early on in my career. It took me a while to discover the whole mediumship piece, but it was when I was practicing law, which was here I've spent all this time, money, energy into trying to become something that I thought I wanted to be. And shortly, once I get in, I'm like, oh my God, I hate this. I couldn't see myself doing this for another 40 years. So fast forward, I spent from 25 to my late 30s trying to discover, what am I here for? What am I doing? What's this thing that I feel like is missing? And so personal development, spiritual journey, I mean, you name it, I tried it, just trying to figure out what is this thing. I worked with a Peruvian shaman, and during one of his groups, I was there with a friend of mine, and I knew a little bit about his grandmother who had passed, but I didn't know all the details. And all of a sudden, I just had all this information, and I asked him, I was like, does this make sense for your grandmother? And he's like, yeah. And I'm thinking, well, how in the world would I know this? And so I go and talk to the shaman about it, and I was like, is there any chance I'm a medium? And you've got to keep in mind where I grew up, small town Ohio, nobody knew what a medium was. I didn't know what a medium was. This is it's not like I was like, oh yeah, since I was a little kid, I knew what a medium was. No, it took that 20, however many years of this personal discovery journey to even understand that this could possibly be a thing. So when I asked him that, and he was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I think I'm afraid of it. And he's like, Because in my mind, I thought a medium meant I'm going to know if people are going to die. I'm going to see dead people walking around all the time. It seemed like a very scary life to me. But so then from then on, I kind of started studying it. So there was a very long answer, but that was really the progression, was just the curiosity of like, what else is there? This cannot be it. And so that's how I discovered that I can communicate with spirits on the other side.
Yeah, no, I completely understand what you mean by starting a career very young and be like, this is not it. Because it happened to me also. I grew up in France and I did, all the school and everything. Ended up in a 9 to 5 job working for an insurance company. Oh my God. And after 3 years, I was like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. And I just left a very high paying job, a boyfriend, a house, everything, a country. And I left. And 6 months later, I was working for an airlines and traveling around the world because I knew there was something I wanted to do. There couldn't be it, the office job and everything. So completely
Wow.
understand. And you also mentioned burnout. So when did you realize you were experiencing burnout? Because you started very young. Did it take you, I'm sure it took you like a few years, right?
Uh, I mean, I actually sometimes when I realize I'm in the wrong spot, like I won't stay for too long. And that I was really only practicing law for about 9 months. And then, but
Oh,
my desire was never to really be like a big litigator or work in a legal office. I really just wanted the background to work in sports and entertainment. So I was like, okay, well, let me try this traditional route and see if I like it. And then a few years later, I circled back and tried family law, and I was like, ooh, yep, still hate it. So you only need to put yourself through it so many times before you're like, okay, now you're just being an idiot. But so it didn't take me very long.
so how did you get it again from doing entertainment, taking care, doing entertainment work to speaking with a
I,
shaman and
yeah.
and
So
about learning about being a medium? I think I'm missing a piece here.
no, totally. Well, because it was a long piece. So it really just became like going from like one job and being like, all right, like this kind of makes sense, but still there was just something inside of me. And I think that for anybody that's listening, if you have this feeling sometimes where it's just like, it just feels like there's something more. So I would continue to search out like, well, what is that something more? I became a health coach because I was like, well, I love health and wellness, and maybe I can help people with weight loss and help them with, nutrition. So I did that and I enjoyed that, but I was like, well, there still seems to be something more. And so I kept following the breadcrumbs of like what else is that? And so I would take personal development classes, I would read books, take courses, and then I started to just understand that to me, I mean, my experience has been that there's this whole other side of the universe that like we can't see, we can't touch, but I like started to learn like there's something else that's there. And so that's the discovery that just kept driving me to get more information. And so whenever any type of opportunity would present itself, and I'd be like, all right, well, that sounds pretty crazy, this shaman circle. Let me let me go see what that's like. And so I was through, and I did those shaman groups for 10 years. And it was probably in year 6 or 7 that I had that discovery. So it was a lot of like removing layers of the onion that were probably keeping this all inside. So it was really that lots and lots of personal discovery. And sometimes that would be like going, having different jobs and being like, okay, well, that got closer to the mark, but not totally it. So, yeah, the breadcrumbs.
Oh, okay, so it took a little while then. It wasn't
Oh
like
yeah,
right
yeah,
away.
yeah.
Yeah.
People might have that luxury, not me.
Yeah, I mean, we talk to different guests, and some they know from the beginning. They are empath and they have those gifts. And other guests they told us, yeah, it took them lot of reading, information, meditation, and then they get to that spiritual side. Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't, now that you're in the spiritual arena, like you're like more in tune with your intuition. When you look back, do you think about the times that you're actually, oh, I think that's what was kind of a hunch of something when I was a child, like, but I didn't know at the time that, or
Yes.
you just ignored, you're afraid, seeing
Right. No,
something.
that's a great question because as she was mentioning, like some of the guests kind of know from a young age, and I was thinking, yeah, I didn't know that at a young age, but now as I look back, it was that my claircognizant, which means clear knowing, is very strong. So I would know things that other people don't know. But like, how do you know things other people don't know? Like you really wouldn't. And so my mom will still tell you to this day, like she would ask me for my insight or guidance or advice, like when I was 8 years old. Like I would just have these crazy answers and solutions to problems. And it's like, what 8-year-old like just randomly knows this? And then, as I got older, I guess I kind of attributed to like, oh, well, I guess I'm just like smart. But what I didn't realize was that I'm actually claircognizant, clear knowing. So I'm getting information. And so that's where a lot of it would come from. And I look back, I could sit next to somebody on an airplane and they start telling me their life problems. Like it's like, it got very normal where I would know like everything about all these strangers and I'm like, why are they telling me all this? And then I would just get used to like giving my 2 cents. And here I was probably actually channeling a message for them. And then they were like, wow, that was exactly what I needed to hear today. I'm like, great. And I just got very used to like, that's how people interact with me, not knowing that, yeah, I'm channeling information.
Yeah, just like those small things, day-to-day situations. That's actually when you just like you realize it's happening, like you have that gift. Just like people talking to
Yes.
you. I'm a clairvoyant reader. So I'm more like I'm in meditation and then I just like and then I see energy and read the energy. But a lot of times too, it's just this thing of people coming and just telling their craziest stories, people that I've never seen before, never met before, especially in Brazil, where I remember like just being on like a subway, a woman telling me her whole life. I'm like, oh my God, that's so, but at the time you don't realize it. And then now you kind of like, you're more aware, you're in tune. So, you're supposed to be telling them something, which makes it easier in a way too, like, and then you detach from the whole situation and like, okay, moving on with
Right.
my
Yes.
life.
Yes. And I think that, and
So,
I've, oh, sorry, go ahead.
but yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes.
Well, I was going to say, what I've discovered too, as I've encountered other people now, like empaths and people with your similar experience, is that sharing that story with others, like, yeah, sometimes people just tell me their whole life story and then they can relate and go, oh my gosh, like that happens to me. So sometimes it's like helping somebody else identify, like, yeah, there's probably a reason that they're telling you that. It's because you're empathetic or you have some other type of gift. And I found that people start to that, like, kind of like, oh, puts a little spark in them. So I think that it's great that at the time it didn't make sense, but now looking back, you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I understand.
Yeah, now it totally makes sense. So, how about shamanism? Do you just this part I wanted to understand? You took like a shamanism course, like a long course, and do you practice shamanism as well?
So I was in like group ceremonies with a shaman who like facilitates through shamanistic ways. I myself do not like practice it per se or have studied enough to, I would never call myself that by any stretch. Like it,
Hmm.
I've participated, but I'm not somebody to facilitate that. So I think that for me, it's been more of an experience of trying kind of different modalities, understanding all of the different types of energetic work, things that can help us through trauma. So that's been kind of more of my experience, is that I've been a bit more experiential with a lot of different modalities.
Oh, I see. And how do you channel? Because we saw on your bio that you channel archangels and angels, Archangel Raphael.
Correct.
When did you realize that it was him talking to you?
So yes, this was just about a year ago. So again, and that's like one of the things, like, I feel like in this spiritual realm, I never stop learning, or there's not like, there's always something else that could show up. So I was at a retreat and I don't remember exactly how it came about. Oh, I guess somebody actually, the facilitator was giving me a message, which is very, that's not often. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's a great opportunity when I can get a message from somebody else. Like I love that.
Yes.
So she was giving me a message and it was about being able to channel Archangel Raphael. And I was like, I don't even know anything about Archangel Raphael. Like I'm not going to pretend I have a clue. Um, and then there was a point where she's like, do you want to practice? And it was actually that I could trans channel Archangel Raphael. So what that means is like you can allow him to come into your body and then bring the messages that way. So I, practiced, which with anything, it's not really a practice because it's happening. Um, and it was like I could feel my arms like lifting up, which was like feeling like really large wings, like you would imagine. And then all of a sudden, my voice changed and I started saying things that I would never say. I mean, like, I was like, what is this language? I mean, it was, English, but it was this just talk that I was like, wow, this sounds really profound. And I know I'm not coming up with this. It's too good. And so I just heard myself talking in this other voice too. And so it was really wild. And then after that, like I haven't been able to fully bring that back to the extent of like bringing it into my body. However, when I channel now, it is like kind of using my arms to move energy. And then I start saying things and actually speak a lot in rhymes when I bring, his message through. So I'm still working on to like be able to bring that back through my whole body. Again, this is one of those things I'm a little bit intimidated because it's kind of a big deal if you bring another being's energy into your own body. So I'm working through
For
that. But
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. You don't want it to stay and control you. You need to have control over your own space, for sure.
correct.
So and what does he represent for you, Archangel Raphael? I really I feel connected with Archangel Michael, and he represents like strength and protection. And so what does Raphael represent, like in your own words?
Yes, so he helps with healing, so energetic, physical, emotional. And so my experience has been that, and also travel, very interesting. So my experience has been that when he comes through, or clients that I've worked with and provided these healing sessions, I mean, I can get information from events that have happened in their life where I'm like, oh, there was like a trauma piece that needed healed there. Or I've actually had people come up to me and say, like, hey, that healed this physical ailment. So it's all types of healing. And I think to me, it's like just amazing because it's like I can bring the energy through. The session itself may not be that long, but I can feel that he continues to work with the person like once I take myself out of it. So I feel like he's like comes through me to get there, and then I kind of back away and he does whatever he does.
That's so nice. And it's a very high vibrational energy, huh? It's just it's gonna feel good, and it's just like working for the highest good of everybody involved. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, and truly, like, to circle back to the whole lawyer thing, like that's what I was trying to do when I wanted to be a lawyer, was like just to help people.
Yeah, you
And
see?
and
Yeah,
it was
you're
like not like super high frequency. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, who knew? Like really, my goal this entire time has just been to help people. So it showed up through an archangel. Who knew?
yes, yes, for sure. And how do you help people dealing with grief? Uh, or even like miscarriages? Do you also help women who go through, loss during pregnancy?
Yeah. So a big piece of this happened because my dad passed away when I was 18. So if I had to really look back at where this whole journey started, it would be then, because that was when I was really shocked. Like, and I say like, yeah, we live and then we die and then we do a job we worked. Well, initially it was like, well, we just live and then we die. Like, what the heck? Um, so that I feel like was a huge piece because I always just felt like, how do we never communicate with those that we love again? Like, that's just it. And so that's what really helped me going through this path. And then since this discovery, people will often ask me, like, well, can you communicate with your loved ones? It took me a long time to be able to figure that part out. It was easier to work with other people's loved ones. But now I would say I have a pretty good like understanding of how my dad shows up, which is part of how I help people with grief, is like understanding them, helping them understand like signs and symbols and things that could be happening in their everyday life that's still keeping them connected to that loved one. So like, yes, they're not showing up at your apartment in physical form and hanging out with you, but maybe when every time you look at the clock, you're seeing 11:11. Or for me, my dad's birthday was 9/11. I see 9/11 all the time. And like, I'm sure most people aren't seeing 9/11 all the time unless it like probably means something. So helping people identify that and really just getting the concept that, I guess it's almost 25 years ago that my dad died. And I still have moments where I just like totally break down and lose it. But it's helping people understand that grief is not linear. It's like, it's not like, oh, I finally mastered that, it's gone. I haven't had that experience yet. Um, and so just understanding how to navigate those waves. I kind of use the analogy of surfing. Like, probably at first you're no good. You get knocked down all the time. But once you figure it out, you can ride those waves better. And so to me, that's how grief is. It's like initially it just would knock me out all the time. Now I'm like, oh, this is that wave of grief. All right, let me just ride through this and come to the other side. And then helping people with miscarriages is just understanding that that spirit is still around. And sometimes people want answers of like, why didn't I have this baby, or what happened? And so to be able to connect to that soul and then bring through that information so they can understand, like, hey, maybe that wouldn't have been the right time, or maybe with that partner, you would have had a much harder life and the child would have had a harder life. And maybe it just, was to come happen later. So to help people really understand that there is a way to communicate. And I also think that it's like it's not really something that's talked about. So people don't really have a place to share. And so to be a safe space for somebody to have some of those experiences. And that's what I found. I mean, I had one client come through and she had a miscarriage like 25 years ago, and no medium had ever brought it through until one of the readings that I did with her. And she's like, wow, I always felt like there might be some other spirit helping me, but I couldn't figure out who or what it was. And that's who it was. So, yeah.
Wow. How interesting. Yeah. They call the spirit babies, right? That you like that ability to communicate with the spirit babies.
Yes. Yep.
Do you think it's possible that because, I had a miscarriage too, like, and a late one, do you think that it's possible that that spirit maybe come back later in your life? Maybe, if you get pregnant again, is it the same spirit? I don't know if you know the answer to that, but I always wonder,
So I don't know the answer to that. I mean, there's a lot of this work that I do where I'm like, I don't know, but in what I would experience is like, I mean, I would think it's a possibility for sure. Like it's like it has time to come back maybe in the right circumstances, or, so I believe it's possible. I don't know for sure, but I would certainly think it's possible.
And you work also with pets. So is it like a spirit guide or spirit animals, or you work with, or you can, channel like the pet that's been gone for a while and tell the owner, he's around.
Yeah, so I work, I mean, if the pets have passed, it's still the same thing as like the spirit of a person's spirit of the animal. So I have certainly gotten a lot of pets. I've actually had people come to me specifically for pets to see if I could, communicate and bring them through. And it's just the same in my experience as it is a person. And so they have messages, which is kind of interesting because people are like, well, if the dog doesn't talk when it's here, how come all of a sudden you can get a message? I don't know. But it happens, and in the readings that I've given, people can validate, like, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, and I would certainly question it myself. I'm glad that somebody's validating, because it's like, how would I have this information? And does this resonate? And we're like, yes, I know that was his favorite, whatever, or I understand what you're talking about. So again, it's just reading the vibration of the animal or the spirit.
How did you react the first time you had a reading for a pet, or like a pet talk to you, or you felt it? Because I would feel that would be like weird, like you said, the dog doesn't speak when he's here, but it's talking to you. But you're like, oh, what's going on?
Well, it's using all of the kind of the clairs that we were talking about. So I think for pets, it's more of a feeling, like, I don't know, like when a dog is around, like you're like, I feel like it's hard to explain because it's a feeling, right? So it's a feeling for me where I'm like, oh, that feels like a dog. And then sometimes I see like colors of it, or maybe I can see it was a Rottweiler, or so it's like it shows itself the same way I see other symbols and objects when I'm doing a message for like a person. It kind of shows this, these examples. I forget, I was doing a group reading somewhere and I brought somebody's dog through and they were so excited, like that. They were more excited. Don't tell their family, but they were more excited about the pet. They're like, oh my gosh, Coco showed up or whatever it was. But it really, it's like those spirits sometimes have just as important of a message to be bringing to give comfort to their loved ones here.
Yeah, I believe it. Totally. And so I guess you could say that you feel more accomplished helping people, with spirituality than when you were a lawyer, or because I'm sure you were giving also a lot of work as a lawyer, especially when you change also, how do you say that? But not category, but because you were doing estate, then you did family, and I'm sure there's a lot to do with families, helping them. But you feel more accomplished as a medium.
I would say the big thing, the difference of practicing law then versus what I'm doing now is, one, I didn't understand that I was an empath and I was intuitive. So everybody would be bringing like, let's be honest, when somebody dies or you're going through a divorce, not really the high points of your life, right? So that's when people are showing up and you're like, oh man. And so I would be taking on all of that energy, not understanding. So I was really exhausted at a young age and couldn't understand, like, I have plenty of energy, but here I am dealing with everybody's problems and also energetically taking that on. So I didn't know that was part of what was happening. Yes, I helped people in that regard, but it was like, I never felt like everybody always won, because really they don't, somebody usually wins and somebody loses in their mind. It's not really like, they're like, all right, this ended just exactly how we wanted it to end. Like, that's not been my experience. So now when I help people this way, I feel like giving them maybe hope or closure or something that they're connected to their loved ones, or they're receiving a message that's beneficial, or connecting them to their pet. We just don't know sometimes what it can be to have that bit of closure. And now I know, because of losing my dad, like, I never had a reading prior to actually knowing I could do this. But
Mhm.
this, when I have had readings now and I get that little bit like yes, or oh, I still feel connected, like that brings me so much joy. That is the real difference for me, is like it's a level of like trying to make people happy versus like actually giving them something that they can be happy about. And that's the real difference for me now.
Can you also help like clearing the energy? Because with Sylvia, when she does clairvoyant things, sometimes she sees like the energy of elders or previous life or something like that, and she clear that out because sometimes you don't need that anymore. Is that something you can do
So I
also?
don't know to the extent, like I don't actually, when I give messages, I don't know what all is happening. Like I think there's like something shifts energetically. And I always do set an intention before the session on like helping this person, for the highest good, and also working with Archangel Raphael. Like I believe a lot of that gets cleared. I don't know to the extent of like what all is happening. I just kind of like trust the process, which might be a bit of a vague answer, but I believe that a lot of the spirits and energy that I work with, like it's going to get sorted out the way that it's supposed to, to get sorted.
No, no.
No, just last question for me because she mentioned
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Raphael again. So I was gonna say, does he just like come, or you can well, not summon him, but can you just like meditate and you know how to control
Yeah, that's what I
his
was gonna
Yes.
ask anyway. So
Oh
yeah,
really?
Oh,
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you
yes.
control it, or it just shows up?
Yeah, so I do have like a daily morning routine that I do just for myself, which involves like meditation and getting into a space where I can channel information on my own. And then that I feel also makes it stronger for me to connect when I want to, or when when I'm working. And so I set the intention like, all right, let's, let me invite you in, and, for the highest of good, that it's only light and energy. And so I do set that intention and then just ask for it. And then truly one of the
Okay.
ways he shows up is like automatically in my arms, and my arms just kind of start lifting, which kind of seems crazy, but I'm like, all right, he's here, so that's cool. And then I start, when it hits me, I start speaking, and then I just know. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. Like I'll start speaking in rhymes, and there's never been a day in my entire life where I just like woke up and spoke in rhymes. It's not like I'm not Dr. Seuss on a daily basis. Um,
Well, it's hard to do. I couldn't even do it.
I
If you do
know,
it,
right? I mean,
yeah.
I couldn't, but when I'm channeling, which is such a great sign for me, because I'm like, all right, clearly I'm tapped into, and he did show up to me one time and say like, I speak a lot in rhymes. And so that's how I know. So, when I start speaking in all these crazy rhymes, I'm like, okay, well, clearly he's here, because I couldn't do that even if I tried.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah,
write
that's
down
cool.
everything every time you channel him, or not all the time?
I usually don't write. And I mean, it depends. If I'm working on my own, sometimes I'll write because I just want to like do the practice of writing it down and seeing what I get. But usually I just go into speaking. And if I'm with a group of people, because I like to do like group Archangel Raphael sessions or individual, I just start talking. And so whatever happens. And now when I also do my own practice, I'm to the point where I can tune in and just start to hear it without having to write it. Sometimes I had to use the writing in order to get the message, but now I can hear it as well.
Mm. And so what type of services do you offer? Mediumship and something else?
Yeah, so my favorite to do is group mediumship and group Archangel Raphael healings. And now I've actually combined both of these. So I'll start with an Archangel Raphael healing session for a group. And when I say a group, it's like friends, family, events, people. Sometimes it's just a unique thing to offer for something that you like. I live in Florida, so people will come down for like a girls' weekend, and then they want to add something, unique or special. And so
Oh,
they'll
yes,
invite
good
me, and
idea.
I do
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's fun. It's like, whoa. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, I've had some groups where it's been super transformational. Like they they thought that they were just having like a psychic come and give like some fun information. The next thing you know, they're like in tears going, oh my God, I totally needed this healing. It's like, well, who knew?
Who
um,
knew?
so that's always fun. But yes, I'll start with an Archangel Raphael healing, give the message. I also believe it brings the vibration of the room up. So it's a lot easier to connect mediumistically with the spirits and bring messages through for people that way. Primarily, I'm just focusing on groups right now. I will do some Archangel one-on-one healing, but I've moved away a bit from doing one-on-one mediumship readings just because I personally put so much pressure on myself to be like, all right, they've got to get the message and make sure I answer all the questions. And then I just find myself exhausted. It's like trying to be an A+ student in a scenario where like you really don't have a whole lot of control over it. So the groups to me are a bit more fun. More people can get a little piece of the message. And then truly this one group that I had was like, it was transformational. And one of those women actually in that group had a miscarriage, and I was able to bring it through, and like, it was a super healing moment for her and everybody in the room. So you just don't know.
Yeah. And do you do it over the computer as well, online, or it has to be in person only?
So I do online. Ironically, I didn't show this bit. I am actually a flight attendant for Southwest. And I wanted to be a flight attendant so I could fly around the country for free and do groups in person. So I thought, when you mentioned in the travel, I was like, oh, maybe she's a flight attendant.
Yes.
So I do them in person and over Zoom. Both are possible. But yes, I actually truly became a flight attendant, one, because I thought it'd be a cool, fun thing to do on the side. And two, now I can fly for free anywhere.
That's awesome.
From lawyer to flight attendant.
It's a totally normal progression.
What a journey.
But that's a good gig, if you want to travel and see people, your clients, for free. Here you go. Perfect.
I think it's been great. Yeah. And, I do want to say, though, it was one of those jobs that I wanted to do when I was 9 years old. Like I remember, and I was like, why didn't I listen to my 9-year-old self? I sure would have saved myself a whole bunch of, I'm glad I went to law school and practiced law, but you kind of look and you're like, boy, my 9-year-old self, here I am, many years later, finally doing it.
Yeah.
Same thing for me. Went to school, high school, started college, and after I'm like, I got that job, and then I'm like, after 5 years, I'm like, why am I here? Just left everything and worked for an airline. That's what I wanted to do since I was 15. So, and I knew it.
Yeah, it's so great. And
all right, Kristen. So where can people find you?
All right. So I am starting a brand new channeling with Kristen .com. Everything is being built right now. It's been interesting with the spiritual journey because a lot of things kind of change. It's like, yes, I'm a medium, but I'm also channeling, which I really think is also what mediumship is channeling information. Mm-hmm. So channelingwithkristen.com. I'm on Instagram, Kristen Swinehart, and then also Facebook, Kristen Swinehart 11.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us. We love this conversation. Love everything and anything is spirituality. You just can't get enough of it. And it's always like someone with a different perspective as well, like different backgrounds, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
so,
we never had a lawyer before.
Yeah.
Let me know when you got the next one on there.
And we put all your information in the show note, of course, if people want to contact you. All right?
Yes. Great.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to High Vibes and a Mic. Until next time, keep learning, growing, and exploring. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.